All right, I am at the Red House with Zach Brewer, the founder and owner and I guess operator of Key City Sessions.
Yes, afternoon.
Afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm I'm doing good. I've had this weekend off, which I've actually quite enjoyed. I've had a little more time to do some things, to get outdoors, to hang with her. It's been a fun time.
Oh, good. I know being a artist can be hectic and busy. I've had some pals try to, slow things down at times. I know it can be a lot, I'm sure.
So let's dive in talking about Key City Sessions. Why don't we first tell people exactly what that is?
So Key City Sessions is a house concert series that I started back in July of 2019. And it was originally a condo series, I guess. I started it at Key City Condos. I had an apartment I shared with my brother there. It used to be part of Key City Furniture, which is an old, now obsolete furniture factory in Wilkes County. And they had a renovated warehouse or factory, and so they changed it into these like really cool spots, and so started there. And then understandably my HOA said, maybe don't do shows anymore in your apartment, and they were real nice about it, and let me do my last show. And then I just wanted to keep doing it, so I found a good home in downtown Wilkesboro. And in between that period, a couple really nice ladies I knew let me do a couple shows at their homes. So it was a nice community effort until I got finally established. Yeah.
I love house concerts. I love the vibe of house concerts. I guess it's become a bit of a tradition nowadays to like there's a big network of house concerts out there. What was it about that? What was it about that made you want to get those going, and then what kept you doing them?
That's a really good question. I'll try to keep it brief, I guess. So my parents run the Carolina Bible Camp Bluegrass Festival out of Mocksville, North Carolina. And they book artists for it to raise money for Carolina Bible Camp. It's a nice, great recreational facility for teens and kids, growing up in Christian faith and stuff. And my dad started that about 11, 12 years ago. And it kind of gave me more of a purpose to going to shows, not just for enjoyment, but to scope out artists who could potentially play for that. And then, so I enjoyed and still enjoy being able to tell my parents, hey, this is someone you should look into. And so that kind of piqued some interest there. And then finally, I contacted a local coffee shop, Tali Espresso, in downtown North Wilkesboro. One of my grandparents had passed. This was maybe 2019. And there was a band I liked, Sweet Sweet, out of Myrtle Beach, who was in Winston doing a show, and I talked to them. I said, hey, would y'all be interested maybe in doing a show? Maybe might cheer up my mom. And so they agreed. They came out to Tali Espresso and had an awesome show, indie folk music. And from there, I spoke to one of the owners, Kathy Kozak, and we started a year-long music series called Sounds and Grounds. We did a show once a month in 2019 at their spot in downtown North Wilkesboro. And she and her husband, Jim, were super nice and giving me pretty much free reign of who to choose to come, and that was a really great start. And so halfway through that year, I really wanted to start doing my own thing at my own spot, and had Alyssa Hankey from Pennsylvania come down. She was on tour and hadn't been able to find a North Carolina spot, I think, and so ended up being my apartment. So
Very nice.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the condensed story.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, given what you described with your parents and that going on, is music kind of always been something that has been around, that you've been around throughout your life?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, growing up in Wilkes County, we have Merle Fest, and so I would go to that as a kid and still go. My dad and I, with our law firm, we sponsor like the autograph tin, and my grandparents had been a part in preserving one of the Merle Fest stages, and it's just always been a thing to go to Merle Fest. It's part of like a family tradition to some degree. And my great uncle, now passed away, T.R. Bryan, he was big into bluegrass, loved the Kruger brothers, and so bluegrass has been a thing, down in the foothills, So, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. That's pretty cool. So you practice law.
Yes, yeah.
That's your other job. That's your other thing.
Yes, yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, not house concerts. That's the fun thing.
Yeah. What's law like?
It can be stressful, juggling all the different things you have to do, because there's always going to be something you could do. I mean, after this, I'm probably going to maybe catch some jazz music in Winston, go to a coffee shop and work on a custody case, But, it's great to be able to help people, even in like a small way, when it comes to, custody. And I'd also do criminal defense work, but just, helping people's lives in that small aspect. And but man, it can be stressful for sure, and that's why music is important, to relieve some of that.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Because I mean, obviously, music is whatever. It sounds like you get enjoyment out of that and some fulfillment in a totally different way. But law seems just like one of them. It's like a whole different thing, I guess. It just seems like the kind of demand, mental demand that there is for law seems different than a lot of other professions.
I think a lot of it sometimes has to do with just the sheer volume of things, just so many cases. Stress, knowing if you have like a hearing coming up, to some degree, the weight of that. But I don't know. Maybe it's like that if you have a really important concert. I don't know. Is it stressful if you know you have like a big show to prepare for?
It is, but I think it's something like a lot of it is like more so like once the circumstances are kind of set, once the stage is set the way it's supposed to be, I think then the pressure is sort of just on performance, and you can kind of mentally, you can be pretty ready for that to go your way if you want it to. The only unpredictable feature, I guess, is the audience and how that's going to work or whatever. I guess what's so interesting about law is like it's kind of a competition of two possibilities or something, right?
Well, yes, yeah. With criminal, either you're convicted or you're not.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to civil matters, like custody, it's not always, does someone keep their kids or not? Sometimes it's, does the best result happen or not?
Yeah.
And a lot of negotiations in both realms, to try and get the best thing given the circumstances. Yeah.
Whew. Well, so I guess I don't go too far into my curiosity about law, which we might come back around to. But
sure, yeah.
With Key City, how long have you been doing this?
So, gosh, I mean, now, man, it's been like 4 years. So July 2019, just made that 4-year mark. But then again, there's like somewhat of a small gap in 2020, oddly enough. Even though so many things were shut down, I was still allowed to abide by social distancing recommendations. And so in July, I did have to have, I know my first show in 2020 was February before everything shut down. And then my next one was in July when it semi opened up, did an outside show at a very historic home in downtown Wilkesboro owned by Ann Graves. She's a real sweet lady. Let me have Casey Noel out and Mason Vi. Yeah, he accompanied her on guitar, and Alora Dash and her fiance opened up. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Poolside concert, mid-pandemic.
Yeah, that sounds pretty nice. What was I thinking? Oh, what do you have a particular show of the many that you've done? Do you have a particular show that stands out as sort of a good example of what you're trying to do, or big moments, for you?
Oh, man, there's just different ones, because even if you have like a big crowd, or decent size, I guess for house shows for me, I think a good crowd for me is like 20 to 30. That's pretty sweet, Mm-hmm. But I'd say the best crowd, really cool experience. I had Charles Walker. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
He had a cool following in the Boone College scene when he was up there, when house shows were more prominent, and they're still doing house shows up there. But I first saw him maybe either at Boone Saloon or at the house venue, the Burrow. That was a cool little spot. And I helped support him on his album, and so in exchange for that, he agreed to come do a house show with the band. And man, it was like almost like a house party show. And there were like people who flew in from Texas because it was his last show before going to Nashville. It was so neat. And my first hip hop show with Free the Optimist, Mike Live, C. Shreve, and their DJ who does original scratch style, DJ Jet. That was such an awesome experience in May of 2021. And then I recently had Kells. She's an up-and-coming R&B soul artist, jazz out of Atlanta. She's closest voice to Amy Winehouse I've heard since Amy Winehouse's passing, and I really hope she makes it. Shout out to Kells. Kells, you're going to go somewhere. I believe in you. So, yes, those are three that, and I mean, all of them have been cool. I appreciate all the artists who come. They're good people. So, yeah.
I might ask some pretty broad questions. The first of which, if I haven't already, what is it that you like about music?
Ooh, very broad. Yes. I mean, it makes you. There are different genres and different, I guess, sounds for different feelings, what you're going through. I mean, I just went to like a electronic show last night. My ears hurt, and I saw Yellow Claw, like my favorite electronic group of all time, and I was bumping their music before coming here. But then sometimes, you might feel kind of more relaxed and chill, and I don't know, sometimes even sad and thinking about life, and you might want to listen to, I don't know, Sierra Farrell if you're contemplating things, or your music. You have great good folk toned down vibes for that. Thinking about life, storytelling, which I'm excited for our show. I don't know if this is a good segue or not. I'm excited for September 1st because that'll be the second ever 3-build act I've had. I know Presley Layton is going to open, good soulful country voice, and then Ken Welburn, he's our local, one of our newspaper guys for the Wilkes Record. He's going to do some mid-show storytelling to open up for you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought it would pair well because your songs are sometimes kind of like storytelling.
Yeah.
Is that what you strive for in your stuff?
It's something that I might be. I'm not fully aware of all the time, but it is. I notice a difference, I guess, in songs that come from that voice as opposed to those that just kind of describe or something. I do. I love storytelling. I love movies. I love songs that tell stories, and I tap into that sometimes. But I guess my view of songwriting is like it's weird. It's like I don't set out for a certain thing necessarily going into the song. So I guess that's the sort. I don't know if that's a caveat or not. I guess that's sort of the difference is like I'm not while I'm in the writing process, I'm not thinking about, oh, I need to write this story that wraps up with this conclusion or that has this arc or anything like that. It's kind of more it's more distant than that. But I do think that sometimes they are put together in a way that feels very much like a story or a fairy tale or a folklore or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I can't remember what song it was, what the title of it was, but I think you say in the lyrics, "I'm not ready to go home," and I remember you performing it at the Gas Hill one night, and you could have heard like a pin drop in the crowd, and so it was pretty sweet.
That's actually one of the songs I was thinking about when I was kind of describing that difference. That I think is "Cussing at a Neon Sign."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
that's a good one.
That one's interesting to me when it comes to like thinking of it in terms of a story, because it's like it's not exactly chronological. It doesn't really make it's not like it follows a certain narrative line. It's just this visual sort of thing that happens with these bookend things. I wrote that song about my grandmother's passing, and I just kind of inserted a bunch of little details and curiosities about her into what feels like the choruses.
Oh, okay.
And otherwise, it was just sort of like, I wish you'd like, I kind of tried to paint a scene of two people at a bar, and one of them is about to leave, and the other one is saying, I wish you should stay and like tell stories, and we can like talk about life. Like, I wish you didn't have to leave. I wish we could keep on partying. Which was kind of, I guess, the way I felt about her passing. Yeah, storytelling is important. Stories are interesting. How do you feel about movies?
Movies are great. I go to the movie theater.
Do you have a favorite movie of all time?
Oh, gosh. This might sound lame, but just a good dumb comedy, Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds, and what's her name? Amy. I think Anna Harris, maybe. I can't remember the other two actresses' names.
Where he goes home for the holidays. Yeah.
That's always been a favorite. Yeah,
that is a good one.
Yes. What are your take on movies? Do you have a favorite? And has it influenced your songwriting in any way?
That's a good question. I think my current favorite movie is Her. Have you seen Her?
No, not yet.
I find myself really loving movies that deal with like with love and technology. I guess sort of like modern and this undeniable thing about us that makes us human. There's some, or like I should say, technology and humanity. I like that combination. And I like a lot of movies that have that conflict in them. And I think Her is one of those. It is often laughed at because it's summarized as like, oh, that movie where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with a computer or something like that. But yeah, it's like there's not like deals with operating systems becoming more like people, and he's like has a relationship with this operating system, and it's visually so fucking beautiful, and like the story that's told is just very, I would say, important. And I don't think that movies necessarily influence my songwriting, but I think they sometimes influence my sensitivity to aesthetics or something. Like when I hear Phoebe Bridgers' music, to me it sounds like what Her looks like.
Oh, okay.
There's some kind of modern beauty to it that I don't always know how to create or something like that.
But seem like of course, your grandmother, I guess y'all were pretty close, and she influenced your songwriting in that one song at least. Do you have any, has your family been an important part of like, your songwriting, or maybe crafting who you are as a musician?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. my relationship with music started definitely with just familial dynamics. It sounds like maybe like yours did. So my dad was a drummer in the church that I attended as a kid, and that was kind of an important piece of the introduction. And the choir, like I always paid attention to the choir, and my mom sang in the choir sometimes, and I paid attention to that. And I think early on, I felt as though I was like kind of able to participate in music, and I'd play drums. I'd hit things with drumsticks, I should say, I like all over the house. And so there was that there, and there was my grandmother had a piano in the house, and there was just an appreciation for music throughout the family. But more importantly, I think there was like a family culture, like a dynamic of Southern people who just hung out with their family. Like that was our life, was hanging out together, and my grandfather keeping a garden, and I basically inherited sort of a lot of the way that I'm like the sensitivity I have for certain forms of beauty. I think I inherited from family, like antiques, for example. I guess not everybody likes a rustic antique or whatever, but we just had those around, and in my world, that was like a form of beauty. And that definitely, I think, seeped in to my whole relationship with music and why I make it and stuff, is just like almost this, like a nostalgia factor. She's chowing down. A nostalgia factor, a love for the rustic, but also like this deep emotional bond that you can have with other people. I think that's all family based.
It's a kind of what word am I trying to use? Like a common denominator for a lot of people. I feel like it spans cultures and generations, and you could walk into maybe like any music venue. You go to the Ramcat, on a weekend or something, and there could be just people from all socio-political backgrounds or whatever all in one room because they just like the same thing, and that's one thing I do enjoy about house shows or just other shows. It's like everyone's all under one roof, just chilling. So
is that a part of, like, when it comes to curating music, is that something that you're able to curate easily, those kind of experiences?
Honestly, I feel like it, because I'll have people, one of the, Ken Welburn is going to do storytelling at the, owner of the record paper I mentioned. He said to me before, Zach, I love your shows. You just never know what you're going to get. And I tried to do his voice. He's an amazing storyteller, hilarious guy. But that's how I like it. I try to switch up genres, and I try to do that in an effort to not, keep things the same. But also, I like to try and reach out to artists who produce music that might be more associated with other communities. And so that's important to me, to try and bring other people out. Because I know being in the foothills, Appalachia, we have a rich history of like bluegrass, Appalachian, and folk music, which is great. I think that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that, and I love supporting it. And I always like to have folk and bluegrass, etc. But I think it's important to also cater to other people's interests, to get others out.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other artist you were telling me about will be the third artist on the act.
Oh yeah, Presley Layton.
You want to talk about Presley at all? You want to mention?
Yeah, she's really cool. I knew nothing about her until I went to a open mic at Appalachian Mountain Brewing, and I realized open mics are great ways to kind of scope out people you might not otherwise know about. And I just noticed, she had a good kind of soulfulish country voice, not the mainstream sort of contemporary corporate country, that is on the airwaves constantly. She had that more soulful voice, and I thought, man, she would be cool to reach out to, and she was very excited to do it. She said, this is the first show I'm gonna be opening up for someone for, so I thought it would pair well since y'all's genres within roots music are different.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's cool. I'll be happy to introduce y'all.
Yeah, that'd be awesome
on that day. Yeah.
So I think this is what I'm trying to formulate the question I have in my head, which is something like, so when we think about versatility and diversity among sort of like something like with Key City, like this eclectic mix of people that you're able to experience over time in this space, there's some like, what do you think is what you enjoy or what you think is valuable about sort of the experience of multiple cultures and perspectives and just difference? What is valuable about experiencing difference through music?
One of the first things that comes to mind is being able to see something or hear something you might not otherwise see. I think one example that I've thought of recently along those lines is the Ramcat has made, I think, a concerted dad joke concerted effort to get African artists there, because like there were 3 different groups that did like the style of rock. I can't recall what country, but they're from the same general. It might be Mali, I think, if I'm correct. Like Tinariwen or Tinariwen. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I was there for that show. It was sick. It was amazing. And they got 2 groups afterwards in that same kind of subgenre. And they had a kora player, I think is how you pronounce the instrument. She came out. And it was just really neat that they made an effort to bring that to Winston-Salem, because I don't know where I'm going to see that, and there's some other venues, of course, who have gotten those bands. I know Cat's Cradle did. And so, when it comes to like a smaller community like Wilkes, it's important for me to bring soul or R&B, that might not be as prominent, and bolero music from Maritzaida out of Greensboro. She and her husband and Greg Slupik came out. It was awesome. So it's just important to, curate events that can be for other groups of people, but then expose others to something new. And then they'll walk away saying, man, that was neat. I like something new now.
Is that usually how it's received, I guess, with your community of folks that come to these things?
I would say so, yes. Not everyone may like hip hop or appreciate it. But, even if they don't, or even if they, aren't really into, bluegrass, you can walk away knowing that you've seen something positive, and just having that experience,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's been an amazing experience. People say like great things about it, and I have great things to say about just a lot of other venues. Speaking of which, your T-shirt.
Yeah.
That I think is from. Was he one of the co-owners of the Garage?
He was the, I guess, sole owner at the
really? Okay.
of the Garage.
Because I remember seeing like that sticker or T-shirt around the time that it was shutting down, and that might have been the first place I saw you at, because I think you had a female vocalist accompany you.
Yeah.
And I can't remember her name.
Molly Grace, probably.
Yeah. I swear I think I saw you there, but man, that was like a few years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how long it's actually been since the Garage closed.
Was that one of your favorite Winston spots?
Certainly. I mean, back then also Muddy Creek
Oh, yeah,
was
yeah.
off on the outskirts in Bethania.
Oh, I love that place. It was awesome.
I really love that place too, and that was more probably that place I think was more designed for my kind of music, where the garage in its origin was more for I think designed for rockabilly, and then became everything, and it was great for rock shows. And I loved playing the garage, though I don't like. I think what I've heard through the grapevine was that a criticism or whatever of that time period was that people felt like the songwriter or Americana stuff was maybe too prominent in Winston, and like that there weren't enough hardcore shows, rock shows or whatever.
Well, now you have the Monstercade.
Now you got Monstercade, and that's like basically apparently a Monstercade is like no like vanilla songwriters allowed or whatever. So that's cool, but I guess the table's kind of turned. Muddy Creek is no more here, at least at the moment, and yeah. So the garage closed down, but the garage I would say Muddy Creek I played like maybe once a quarter, whereas the garage I played very often, and it was kind of home for me. Yes, and so this shirt I believe was from the what was it? I don't think it was the last one. I think it was like I played two New Year's Eve shows with the Genuine there.
Oh yeah, I was probably at one of those.
Yeah. And I think
both.
this was front like they produced these and put them out and put those stickers out all over the place.
Oh, nice.
And then I also played the last one in 2016, I guess it was, or was it from I don't know if it was 2016 into 17 or 15 into 16, but it was one of those.
I might have been in that. Did the collection perform at the last New Year's Eve event? I can't remember, but
not the trying to think who was it. I believe it was not the collection. I believe it was maybe Victoria and Companion and me and the Genuine. I think that might be what it was.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh man, Tori is like phenomenal.
Yeah.
She and Maya Camille have like, I mean, in my opinion, some of the best female vocals in the state. Like they're pretty amazing. So.
Oh yeah, they're great, and they're it's kind of amazing to see. Like it looks like from a distance that they're really finding a place to be.
Oh yeah,
on the road and stuff.
It's cool seeing the places like they're touring with Charlie Hunter, and how I guess it seems I'm not sure, taken them under his wing to some degree, and then I know he's got his label Side Hustle, and he's put Mari Saida on that too, doing bolero music, and so I really, commend like them for like seeking out new stuff, genres, and it's awesome.
It feels like a lot of people who stayed the course or even didn't and just got back on the course, or I don't know what, but it feels interesting. It just feels like a lot of people who are now sort of seasoned musicians are finding their spot, their lane, and they're reaching new levels of success. And I'm seeing this among a lot of my friends.
Oh, like who? Who should I reach out to?
Who you should reach out to, I'm not sure, but you might as well try Caleb Cottle and see if he's around for it. Yeah, I don't know if you've had him before.
It seems like he's gotten more known, which is awesome, because I think, didn't he play at the Garage once too, or maybe the Muddy Creek?
Oh, he played at the Garage many times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I've never seen him live. I need to.
Yeah.
So
he's an old friend of mine, and he was playing the Garage like back when he was too young to play the Garage. Like he was, and he's just always been very determined to reach a place, in music, and it just seems like he's gotten himself into a groove. Tori's got into a groove, and then like people like Mason have found themselves in a whole different world and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of people stayed the course and found some traction, I guess, in the last few years.
Oh yeah, it's cool. We're blessed to be in a state like this. I think North Carolina is great for, art and everything.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I mean, not to take shots at other states and stuff, but I'm sure it will be harder in the Midwest for artists. So.
Midwest, yes. I've been very fascinated lately I've been doing a lot of research about this, about like I've just been looking up stuff like good cities for working musicians to be in, good cities for clubs, like all this sort of just like learning about markets, learning about where people live and stuff. And a lot of the stuff on the top of the list is like based on how many clubs there are or opportunities to make income compared to the population. And North Carolina ranks pretty poorly among other places. Other markets that are good include like Seattle, Washington, New York City is all in number one in like every metric. Austin is considered high up there. Some places like Boston, Portland. Raleigh is allegedly, according to some lists, in like the top 10 of music opportunities in the country.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know there's some people who are in the Boone music scene that moved down there, like Chris McGinnis, Laura Dash, and I think Dylan Ennis and some other people. So I don't get out there as much because it's like 2.5 hours from Wilkesboro, but it's cool. There's some awesome places out there for sure.
Maybe I need to learn more about some of them, but I mean, like obviously I know the Triangle has some opportunity, but but then there's like there's the cost of living issue, I guess, because like with a lot of these things, you have to travel to play shows anyway. I don't know. I guess I find myself conflicted as to how to really properly think about this stuff. If you need to like live in a city where these opportunities are, or if you just need to travel to a city where these opportunities are a lot. But I feel like it's hard to network in a place like Raleigh, or even I should say in a place like New York or Portland, or even a place like Raleigh, if you're not there all the time, like meeting people, you know?
Yeah. But, you know, being here, you're like almost in the middle of the state. So it's like, you know, you can shoot up to Roanoke, Virginia, or go down to Charlotte, or, you know, you're a little closer to Boone, Asheville. So, yeah, there's so many cool places around here. So, yeah. So are you doing a new tour or anything soon, or just kind of doing like stuff around here?
I would say yes to soon, but so I recorded a new project, and it was one concept, and I kind of want to spend more time, I guess, in the studio being creative. I want to I had this thing in my head that was like, well, maybe I can put out my newest release, you know, by summer of 2023, and that'll be when I start kicking stuff off again, and by this fall and next spring, I'll be touring all the time or whatever. But instead of trying to rush it and finish it by August, I just wanted to spend more time in the studio and developing the vision further. So right now, I think that 2024 is still looking like the year that I expect to pick more things up and tour more regularly. But I guess that will depend on the conclusion of this recording project, which I just want to be careful not to rush more quickly than I should.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, if you're trying to put out a masterpiece, you know, you want to make it sound like you want. You know?
I'm at least trying to put out like it's kind of like, it's thought of as like a debut in a way. It's thought of as like kind of a fresh start and a transition. Honestly, it's I'm treating it like a transition into like the professional realm of music rather than the sort of low budget independent side that I've been in for so long. I'm kind of trying to shift to a higher realm, I guess, of creation.
Do you? That'll be cool to hear. Do you have a label or genre for yourself? Because sometimes, like when if I'm trying to promote a show and describe an artist, you know, it's like, well, if they're kind of acoustic, rootsy, you know, I don't want to say folk and then say the wrong thing, and they're like, you know, and get flack for it, which no one's done that to me before at all. No artist has ever said anything negative, but you know, it's like, is it folk, Americana, is it alt country? You know, do you consider yourself one thing or a mixture of different genres?
Yeah, there's a few different ways, I guess, that make sense to me, or a few different things you could say about me that would be easy, that I feel like would make sense. I often will just call myself a songwriter because I think that gets across, that puts an idea in people's head that is kind of accurate, you know? Like, this is not about the tradition of bluegrass. It's not about the tradition of Nashville or whatever. This is about the words that I write. And so I think that's a pretty clear sort of value to put on it right off the get-go. But beyond that, like genre associations, I personally have found myself relating to the term Americana. And I think it's because it's vague enough. It isn't quite so pigeonholed. It doesn't come with rules. I think of Americana, which I often do this. I think of words as close to their root or their origin usually as I can, or something like that, or maybe their most common use. And Americana, I think of in the same way that people use it when they're talking about the world of antiques. It's like, oh, this is like kind of a relic. This is like it could be a good decor. Like it's something that is a part of American past, like the past of America. Like this is an old thing that used to exist. And I like that because kind of like what I've heard Rick Rubin say about instrumentation. Like an acoustic guitar will sound like an acoustic guitar in 100 years, and it did 100 years ago. And this is true about a piano, and this is true about a banjo. I like the timelessness, I guess, of the music that I try to make, and I like associating that with a word like Americana, like this sort of spirit of the past. Roots, I think, feels the same way as that to me.
Yeah,
it's just like cultural, heritage kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't really fuck with alt country and I never actually use folk. I never say that about myself. It's fine. It's not offensive, but to me it puts, tell me what it puts in your head, I guess, but to me it puts in my head something like northeastern sort of like judgmental, instead of it being sort of like storytelling, like what we associate with Appalachian music, I think, or something. Appalachian is a term I would use as well.
Yeah.
But maybe instead of that, it's more like, I think of folk as more like in the Woody Guthrie realm of like, there is a lesson to be learned in this song kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
How do you understand different genres of these very close together genres?
It's really difficult, to be honest. Like sometimes I don't know how to describe someone. You know, I'll say indie folk or maybe alt country, like Charles Walker, Kevin Daniel, who've played at my place. But yeah, it's hard to. In Americana, I don't even really. It's almost like I really don't know. It's like, well, you know, they sound awesome playing an acoustic guitar. It's not country, you know, but it's not like hippie, you know, folksy music. So I guess they're Americana, you know.
Yeah. It's kind of annoying how many there are, actually, now that you think about it. Because alt country, like, what the hell is alt country? What is it?
I've always felt like it's... part of it might have to do with instrumentation. Like, I don't know, it sounds maybe like some low-key rock-ish, but you put in like a steel pedal guitar or something. But maybe the vocals aren't, you know, like, I don't know, big-name country acts like, you know, Luke Bryan. You know, someone who sounds like that, I'm not going to say, oh, that's definitely alt country. If their voice is like that, you know, it's maybe a little more pulled back. Like you're throwing in something else, like country and Americana. Maybe is, I don't know, maybe what alt country is. I'm not sure.
I saw a video the other day that it really felt like country to me. It was just a clip of some band. I don't know who they were. 2 lead singers. I think it said something like, wait for the breakdown. So it was kind of interesting to note it. It was kind of interesting to listen to, because it had a breakdown like in sort of post-hardcore music or hardcore music, but it was like, it sounded like metal, but it sounded like Southern rock. So it was almost like taking Southern rock into metal territory, like and when I say metal, more like kind of, I guess I don't remember the distinctions too much, but maybe death metal, like the slower version of metal that's more gung, 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 like that stuff.
Yeah, it will bring me back to my middle school days.
Yeah, I heard that and I thought, okay, maybe Southern rock, but kind of if it was so country lyrically that I was like I could almost call that alt rock, but I mean alt country. Mm-hmm. But then again, I don't know what alt country usually is. I'm hearing you say it's pulled back is like the opposite of what I thought, and so
that's just like, I don't know. I just thought of those two words in my head, pulled back. I don't even know what that is. It just sounded right.
Sometimes when I hear alt country, I think of like Justin Townes Earl or Shooter Jennings or even Steve Earle, but. Yeah, I mean, these genres are just kind of silly at a certain point. I don't know.
It's all good.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, next artist I need to describe, they are neato. Awesome. Very cool.
We should make a visual representation of this and do surveys and try to figure out where they are. 'Cause at the top of it is just... At the top of it is what I would call, there's a split between... and this might get into some of the precursor stuff of what we were talking about before, but I do think that there's a split between traditional music and sort of music that's based in the present moment that would be considered like modern music. And I think that country is considered king of the traditional music for the everyman or whatever, and all these things are little apples hanging off of the branch, of country.
Oh yeah, and you could say that with, even stuff like rock or what original rock was, and mixing it with pop or something. But speaking of original country, it's interesting to see artists today who are really honing in on like traditional sounds and not deviating from that at all. And I think a concert I saw recently at the Blue Ridge Music Center, Galax, Virginia, awesome spot, amazing to see. Like, there's a venue right off the Parkway. I caught Sierra Farrell, and she's just, in my mind, one of the preeminent individuals who's able to incorporate various traditional forms of roots music, like her gypsy jazz, whatever you might call it, the I don't know what decade, 1930s, like hobo style music, and then old school country, and like she's shooting up to stardom and is not, going mainstream at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think that should be a light for other artists. And also lyrically, she's not caving in to like, sing about random wacky stuff that like doesn't matter. I'm being vague purposely, but I admire her for, and there are plenty of artists who do that too, but I think I really admire her for doing what she does and in her artistry.
I do too, but also notice something interesting going on. She's, for me, an exception to a pattern in a way. Or I don't know if she's an exception. She is in the same family, I think, as like Coulter Wall. I really like Coulter Wall, and I think both of them are just like super talented. Either of them, I just like think they deserve success. There's nothing about any of their art that I would change, and so I hate to. I'm coming close to like associating them with something else, but I also notice that there seems to be like a pattern of retroism within the country western thing, where they're really bringing the western part of country back out.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And like some of what I just come across in like the social media world, it's not like these people aren't coming to Blue Ridge Music Center and like playing shows, and it's not like a threat, but I'll see it on like Western AF or Honky Tonk, whatever, YouTube channel or whatever. I'll see these artists pop up, and they're just like, I don't have the same experience as when I watch Sierra. I have an experience that's sort of like, oh, you're bringing the Western thing back, and I am not enjoying this. Like you're there's something about Sierra, the way that she does it and the way that Coulter does it, that feels very, I guess, like true and embraced by their just like, this is something I like. And I think I get the sense that some people are doing it out of seeing it as this is what is gaining popularity in this scene.
I see, the point you're trying to make. I mean, some people are going to be better at than others. I don't know. I'm glad people are trying to keep it alive, but Sierra has something different. I think vocally, her vocals just stand out. Like, I mean, she's a phenomenal artist, and stage presence too. Like, I mean, she's, humble and, she just seems, I don't know her personally, but I mean, she just seems cool. So
yeah, you can't take much away from her, man. She's definitely a phenomenon, and very interesting. I kind of keep an eye on what she does. I've also been noticing, like, every once in a while she has a moment where I'm like, I wonder what's going on here, because it seems like touring has been wearing on her pretty hard, and relationships with fans or something, like the social media aspect of it. People getting mad that she canceled some shows.
Yeah, that kind of annoyed me that people like got mad at her for that. When it's like, sure, if I'd been in their position, I would have preferred to go to her show, but it's like, bro, like, chill, you could probably go to another one. But I'm sure, I would think for a lot of artists it can be difficult. I think I've heard from one of my musician friends, like they were just grinding and doing a lot, so many shows, and they just felt the need to scale back a little bit.
Which I don't know why more don't do. Like, I know a few artists that have found themselves in positions where they're just like, oh, I'm doing way too much. And I mean, maybe it's just the money aspect, or maybe it's just the drive to, reach success or whatever. But I love mental health, man. I love I love having space. And I think, your average person probably likes having some distance from work. So it's sometimes surprising to see, how much people are able to exhaust themselves doing their job.
Yeah. And I guess maybe if you as an artist think like, oh, if I do less shows, there won't be consistency. I don't know. Maybe that's how you feel. But I think, artists could still have consistency without having to overdo themselves. Maybe, you don't have to do late nights every weekend. But I mean, I know that's the nature of the game at times, I'm sure. But then again, I'm just a house venue person. I can't really speak to the full experience. So
the pressure on her is different because she's got a label behind her. She's got she's got a significant team behind her, and like it all involves serious financial figures. It's not the same as somebody like me who just, whatever. It obviously is a much more complex operation, but I just I mean that is honestly part of what has ruined some of my aspirations and my relationship with my career is just this belief that artists, like, it's worth it to live a super unhealthy lifestyle and to burn yourself, burn the candle at both ends, and like kill yourself trying to reach success. I just don't. I like ambition, man. I like striving for a big dream, but I don't like unhealthy imbalance. I just think that's worth avoiding.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to have balance, even with, like you said, everyday work. It's, I have to do the same. Unhealthy habits, staying up late, bad idea. Yeah.
Getting sleep is good. Exercising is good.
Yes. Well, I'm glad this is turning into a good therapy session.
Yeah. Honestly, that is what this is a lot of the time. I've had a few artists, after we get done, they're like, damn, man, like, I feel like I should have paid you for that. Because it turns into like this sort of, I don't know, It feels like a therapy session sometimes.
That's what. It's funny you say that. My Kevin Daniel, when he performed at my place this past spring with his full band, he I think had said at one point during the show, "Well, has it been a good therapy session?" Because I think when you're in the house series vibe, I think I've noticed some artists appreciate having an audience who listens.
Yeah.
And they're not getting wasted, drunk everywhere. And granted, some people at my place walk around and enjoy chatting, chilling on the porch, which I love. But I think, some artists maybe, I could be wrong, appreciate a smaller crowd who's attentive rather than maybe a big brewery venue. And, which brewery venues are good. I think they have helped during the pandemic, and wineries too, when a lot of stuff was shut down. But,
yeah, wineries I've noticed can make a good ambiance, whereas breweries, I have a little bit of a challenged relationship with them. But, but I agree with what you're saying. And I think the important word is, I think in house concerts, it's something like sometimes your performance is treated like it matters, like it's important, or like it's worth paying attention to. And that's what we are all after so long some of the time, especially the more intimate performers. It's just like, I have written these things that matter, and I don't want to perform them in places where I'm treated as though they don't matter, and like they just are totally unimportant. So when you find yourself like that, and there's an audience that's just like, we're present with you, we're paying attention, we're looking at you. That's like, it satisfies the thing that we want most.
Yeah, definitely. And I love doing that. And I don't want to discount any brewery venues and cool spots. I love going to breweries for music. Everything has its place, but yeah, I love it when artists appreciate, something more intimate, a cool vibe like that. So
I don't remember if we were connected. I think we were connected when I did this. I one time did one of them like anonymous sort of ask me questions things on Instagram. Somebody asked me specifically, like, why don't you play breweries? And so I wouldn't want to come across like disparaging breweries either. When I get a picture in my head of what I think is great about music at breweries, one picture is like the band of like 55-year-old dudes who never really took music seriously, but they love doing it and they still want to do it. And so they do it at this place where it's social, and they like do it with their friends, and they have a great time doing it, and they learn new songs and whatever. They're like, and they don't call themselves professional, That's one picture I have in my head. And the other picture I get in my head is like when I used to go up to Asheville, and there'd be old time bands playing in circles, and it was like young people, old people, it was people, all sorts of people doing a very communal, very traditional version of like music in the pub kind of thing. And I love that. Both of those examples I think are valuable. I think young musicians starting out with some of their early gigs playing those rooms are valuable. But I think that we just have an economic problem within all this stuff, because like the scale is very difficult for the people who are in the middle between like trying to create a professional product and trying to get away from non-professional venues or whatever. Somebody who can't sell $300 worth of tickets, they're in a hard position, because like if they go sell 100 tickets, they might make, or if they go sell 50 or 80 tickets or whatever, they might make like $80, $120 from a venue that has to take out part of the door for their own self. Whereas if they just go play a brewery and have a worse performance, worse experience, they deliver their music in sort of a less professional way, they can make far more money doing that. So it's just for that person who isn't selling enough tickets to make more than they would in a brewery, that's kind of a hard position to be in, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see what you mean. And if you think about it, there's probably more breweries around than a lot of like actual, what you would call true music venues, places focused solely on that.
Yeah.
So it's, I understand that's probably a struggle for some artists, I would imagine, wanting to have people focus on listening more, which, I mean, you could totally still listen at a brewery. I've seen some great shows. Like Wise Man had, I think, The Collection at one point, and they've had some great reggae bands. It's like a fun, awesome time. But I know, like, when you're in maybe a building that has, is just the aesthetics and everything is just focused solely on like one stage and stuff, it's like easier to give that craft and product to everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah,
something like with the collection are able to come into an environment and totally overpower it. That's just part of how they've thought about what they do, and they can walk on a big ass festival stage and overpower the audience with sound. They can walk into Wise Man and sort of overpower the room with sound, and they have a lot of pieces to do that. It's a little harder for somebody who's like, especially for solo songwriters or like small bands.
Yeah, I think a lot of breweries are like big, so
Yeah.
it might not be the best place for songwriters, but then there are people like me, I would totally enjoy seeing a good songwriter at a brewery or anywhere, pretty much. It doesn't have to be at some intimate music spot like the Evening Muse in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Where I saw Sierra Farrell in 2019 before she like blew up. But yeah, I've seen some other cool people around. So
Yeah. Yeah, I used to play the Muse some. I'm hoping to get back
that's
out there
awesome.
before
That's
July.
like one of my all-time favorite
Yeah.
places in North Carolina.
Yeah, man, I love it
I
out
love
there.
it. They're nice people working over there. So, yeah. What next? What question shall we ask next?
I want to share this idea because I really just want to talk about this while it's fresh.
Mm-hmm.
There have been throughout my whole life, there's been a lot of conversations about, there's like this fight for different attitudes to control art and the way that it is perceived and received and all these things. And I guess since it's honestly just really a part of my day, it's a part of my mind right now, to be thinking about this, and I just wanted to put it on the table. Just the idea that, some people feel as though art is very dangerous and that it has to be handled with like great care and people need to be protected from it. And then, as we've been kind of talking about, in many cases, it's a lot more of this, like, this really is a sincere attempt for me to express something that I felt passionate enough to like access creativity with. And then to see that get all messed up with different people's views is interesting. And sometimes burdensome. Sometimes it's tiring or whatever. All that, I guess if I can repackage some of that as a question, what...
It's getting deep.
Yeah.
Getting deep here.
What do you... how should I ask it as a question?
Ask it how Tyler Nail would ask it as a question.
How do you feel about the idea of censorship within art, within the realm of art?
Ooh, that's a very, very broad question. I'll say this. I'm grateful that we all live in a country where it does not have to be censored, where people have the freedom of choice to produce what they want when it comes to art and music. But at the same time, I think that I feel if it's incumbent on the artist or other people producing it, that it should never be inherently negative. And by that I mean, like, not, of course, like, oh, not talking about sad topics. That's not what I mean at all. I mean something inherently morally deprecating or, like, truly persecutory of other people. In my opinion, as long as it's not within those realms, then I don't see why it should not be produced. And that's extremely vague and very broad in my answer.
Nothing wrong with
that. And I know that could cover a wide range of people's moral compasses, but that's how I feel about it. And we're all human, and so we will have a different perception of things as other people might, but we can also be wrong about our perceptions,
Yeah.
And I think it's good to, when viewing art or songs and things, maybe you're along the lines of, whether someone's offended or not, whatever. It's good to, from an attorney perspective, it's good to view it as a judge, seeing both sides. Is this really one way or the other? Is it a mixture of both or not? What is the true meaning of it?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes there may be no meaning.
That's the problem. And the idea of the judge is even still, like, because I guess with the judge you have law, right? And law ultimately is what is like the...
Oh, well, yeah. So that sounds like censorship.
Yeah, so like
guess.
then with the...
Yeah.
Basically, you have a judge, or you have the judge who is able, if the judge is actually a part of it rather than, say, a jury, you've got somebody interpreting a problem up against the law and assessing, is this against the law? Kind of that's what the conversation is about as it relates to law. Within music, we've done our best to make sure that there was very little law. Of course, there's certain exceptions, but especially with like recorded music or produced music or written music in this country, there's very few limitations there. The only exceptions that come to mind are like certain things that the FDA won't let you say. Or the
on the radio,
the SCC, what are they called? Whatever branch it is, there are certain restrictions, but they're pretty hard to reach. And so anyway, that's one subject. But the ultimate thing for me is this. I think the reason this bothers me, and the reason that I started talking about, I don't know, what gets me to the point where I'll actually engage in conversations about this stuff is when I notice that people who are really passionate about like art and music, even creators, will start to turn on other creators, forgetting the principles that protect us all. So like when I see, if my grandma got mad at a rap song, that wouldn't surprise me. And I wouldn't like spend time being like, now hold on, and trying to convince her of something different, because her principles are way different. Her principles are like Christianity is like all that guides the way I view things. And so like if there's something that she detects is outside of your average Christian moral value system or whatever, she's gonna reject it, and that's gonna be very simple for her. What I notice is a conflict where people claim to like sort of love bravery within the arts and love free speech, love free expression, love culture, love all this stuff that artists do, but then and also feel camaraderie as other artists, like other artists are looking at that and kind of rewarding bravery. But then when there's somebody who uses all of those things, uses all those tools in the toolbox, but expresses something different than what they like, then they will turn on that person. And that's what I don't like, is that people are choosing, I guess, the message of the outcome or the association above the principle that guides the creation of art in the first place. That I find really disheartening, because I don't want any ideological restrictions between me and a person when they're assessing what I do is, at least when they're telling me that they're a music lover or they're telling me they're an artist, I want to remove ideological boundaries, I guess, that would make them feel like, oh, well, you shouldn't say that word, you shouldn't talk about that in a song or whatever.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I get that. It's that's deep. That's like a hard situation, because you don't want to overstep bounds, I guess. But I think people can be too up in arms about something at times when maybe it's not as bad, or it's important for people to see both sides of a situation, I guess. And I'll say this, I don't want to sound hypocritical, because with my music series at Key City, you could say to some degree, maybe I censor, because I sometimes let artists know, hey, I'd like to keep things PG, just in case maybe a parent decides to bring a kid or something, or I like to avoid, certain, keeping it PG and avoid, sacrilegious material. And because I find it to be kind of inclusive, really, even though that maybe to some people might seem like censorship. I think, it's actually being inclusive when you consider the communities you live in. I think you could push more people away if, at like a simple house relaxed venue, if there's like a bunch of cursing and, you're saying some like sacrilegious word or blasphemy, because I think it's maybe easy for certain people to do. And so, I don't have like some big moral spiel to artists when I discuss that, but it's just, hey, this is what I like for my series, and because I don't think most people go to concerts thinking, man, I hope they say the F word a ton, and I hate religion, so I really want them to talk about that. And so, like, if it's just not there at all, then there's no harm, no foul, and more people can feel comfortable. And so I'm gonna put that out in the open.
Yeah.
So maybe it sounds like censorship to some people, but that's what I seek in my shows. But and like you said with your grandma, she with her Christian ideals, probably reminds me of my own grandma. Bless her soul, she's passed on. But yeah, I even censor some of my own music. Like, this might sound weird. It might sound weird as like a almost 35-year-old guy, but I'll download some hip hop songs or rap songs. Like, I got into Kodak Black recently. Like, I bump his stuff quite a bit, but when I can, I honestly try to get the censored versions, because I don't know if I'm thinking too much, but if I'm like driving through town with the windows rolled down, I want to bump it without like some parent being mad at me because their kid heard something. So for me, it makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah,
I guess.
Oh yeah, we have opposite natures in that way, which like the thing that I like about the distinction you just made is like, there's something important about house rules, and like I like that. I think that's a simple, like that could be a simple rule to remember maybe. So like when you're the person responsible for figuring a thing out, like when I'm playing your music series, it's your music series, and I think I can be humble enough in that instance to set aside whatever, to set aside any songs that I might have that have certain words in them. I can set those words aside and fit the vibe that you're creating. And when you listen to my album, or like even when you come on the podcast, it's like I am me in this situation, and and you're willing to share that space with me. And so there's something about letting people be who they are in the appropriate space. And I think that should apply also to like recorded music, to writing music, whatever. Like when some artist works on the album that they're going to put out, that's their call. They get to decide what is going to go on.
That is 100% true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's
hey, buddy.
Marb. Oh my God, Marble.
Oh, so sweet.
Marble, what are you doing? Get down, babe.
Showing love. Showing love, which that is a good point. I think going back to what you were saying about artists getting upset maybe at one another for having maybe a viewpoint or perspective on certain things. I mean, I think it's good to maybe before speaking out against one another, whether it's on social media or in person, to do it in a loving way, to think about one's words before, you definitively feel a certain way, and I think it's easy for certain people to not do that. Which, not saying like I'm some moral beacon or anything, but beacon for morality. But I think it's good to we all got to show a little more love, just like that little Doge over there.
Well, hey babe, it's like I don't expect everybody to be just constantly accommodating to everything.
Oh yeah,
there's certain things, but like what I get grossed out when what I see is
wasabi.
Like,
I am totally grossed out by wasabi. I cannot stand it. It makes me gag.
I like it actually, but
that's crazy. It's disgusting.
We can't be friends now.
No.
No, it's like the way that people will kind of interpret a situation is like, well, this is my morality. Like they'll go on the news. Like they'll go on the news and be interviewed like, this is what someone else did. This is my morality. This is what they should have done. And this is the ideological lens through which I see this situation. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens that person's ideological lens matches the news program that they're on. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why are we doing that? Like, it's like the theater production would make your average person believe that this is just objective opinions being shared from person to person. But like, no, this program picks a person who agrees with them so that person can come on and make this other person sound like an immoral person based on that belief system. And we do that all the time. And like I saw one songwriter do that to another songwriter today on the news. I saw like a clip of one going on a program and being like, well, I represent our ideology. And for that reason, I think this guy is a piece of shit. And I see that and I'm just like, I think that's friggin' gross, man. Like I think I don't expect you to be like, everybody's equal, every thought is equal, everything is okay. But I think that there is a version of understanding that you're not in control of other people's beliefs. Mm-hmm. You don't get to decide what other people believe. You don't get to decide their morality for them. And in fact, like their relationship with that stuff is kind of sacred in a way, And I think that's what I hate about this stuff most is just when people confuse that their morality is so figured out that they can project it onto other people. I don't like that.
Yeah, and I think, this is getting really philosophical. This is not even music at all. We should go teach a philosophy class over at one of the colleges here or something. No. Yeah, I see what you mean. But on morality, not like I'm the one to really be talking about it, but I think some things are truly wrong and others not. But yeah. It makes me think of an example. I went to the church I go to, had a visiting preacher, super cool dude, super chill dude, like registered independent guy. And one thing he said, I don't recall what the whole lesson was about, but he said, that our country should, or people in it should not support this notion of like Christian nationalism.
Mm.
It's like, wow, this dude actually said that from the pulpit. And then on the flip side, I'm at a brewery in Winston one day where they're doing like maybe trivia, and one of the people leading it had on some shirt that said something about like, I don't believe that book, or fake book, or some like arguably anti-Christian stuff. And it's like, well, if you hate it that much, why do you wear a shirt about it? That's not being very, that's kind of turning people away.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't agree with something, like why would you like advertise something that's arguably hateful? And I think there are people on both ends of the spectrum, far ends of the spectrum, let me rephrase that, who in various sectors of society and life are espousing that hatred. And both are morally wrong, because there is a morality in that, because it's persecutory, I believe.
I think that taps into the principle thing, which is like, if the principle that we're trying to get to is don't persecute people like outrightly based on what they believe, like let your differences in belief be minor compared to your respect for each other. That's what we have to be striving for. And it feels as though we've gotten away from that pretty hardcore. Like it's very normal to really think it's cool to, frankly, it's very normal to think it's cool to like pit yourself against conservatives, or what's called like MAGA Republicans, and it's very cool on that side to pit yourself against the most cliche examples one might give of some kind of liberal, some harsher version of saying the word liberal, or it's just normal. It's just accepted now. The religion one too, man. I did that for so long. I was like so anti-Christian for so long, which was like an embarrassing thing to remember now. You're a Christian, I take it?
I am not, to be open and honest, I am not a baptized Christian. I'm still searching. I've grown up my whole life in it, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that, being in or being able to go to the church I go to, that my parents go to. They've been, people have been good examples in demonstrating the text as it should, I believe, but I am still searching within that. Because I don't know, maybe it's I want to make sure this is what I fully believe, because that's like a massive decision. It's like, if you get married, you're supposed to stay with that person forever. That's a massive decision. So, like, I don't take it, to make that decision, I would not take lightly. And so I think, ooh, man, we're getting deep, bro. This is a therapy session at this point. But yeah, I've a lot of my life, I've not had priorities straight. And it's like, finally, I feel like, I think college got in the way, because of party lifestyle and everything. But finally, I've felt more recently like, we're not just here, and that's it, I think. And so it like sparked a little more interest in me to research more and stuff. So
yeah,
going down a rabbit hole here. I don't know if I am. Maybe I'm not, but no, I am not. I will be honest and say I am not Christian as it would be put, but I believe that it's something to be respected, as it's good to respect other people.
No one has ever given an answer based on the public profession of baptism before. I've never experienced that before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I should have rephrased that. It's not just that. It's a combination.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm glad. I need to rephrase that. I believe it's a mixture of things, like of believing that faith, as someone who's maybe Jewish, Muslim, or Buddhist, I think if you call yourself something, you should, I would think, believe and have faith in it. So I think it's a combination of believing and having that faith and being baptized. And because, I mean, I've seen the Bible. I haven't read it from the beginning to end, but that's what it says. So, I mean, and,
Yeah,
So-
I feel you completely. When we were talking about story earlier, and I kind of like hit a wall. It was because I was thinking about Bible stories in a lot of ways, and thinking about the value of Bible stories, and I think maybe I don't know what I'm about to say, but there is something beautiful about art and about stories and about like the use of language and the way that it carries us through these difficult things to negotiate. And just along with all this stuff, like there's this cynicism about story, and I guess like in a distant roundabout way, there's something weird that I'm about to say that's something like, I think the same cynicism that is occurring toward some challenging versions of art is the same cynicism that is pointed at like Christianity and the stories therein. And like part of how that works, I think, is this super rational analysis that takes place toward Bible stories, where it's like, I heard a video earlier with Bill Maher talking about the story of Jonah, and like the whole time that the story of Jonah is sort of being told at face value, he's just kind of laughing at it and mocking it and stuff.
I think I actually know what you're referring to. I think it's so weird you said that. Did you post that on your Facebook or something?
No.
That's weird. Was he talking to that, what's his name?
Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, I like just watched that recently. That's so weird.
Yep.
Yeah, I
same
know
one.
what you're referring to. So
Well, Peterson is like telling the story, and Mara's just like, yeah, whatever, nonsense, and kind of dismissing it because it's because it's at face value. Like the dude gets on a boat, God has asked him to do something, he avoided it, he gets in trouble, storm, whale, all that, and Bill Maher's more just fixated on like super surface level aspects of that story, but as soon as you kind of scratch down a little bit, you realize like this beautiful utility that this story has that is beyond the surface. Obviously, it's applicable to like lots and lots of situations and patterns in life, which is like, your conscience, like if you don't react to the way he put it in his interpretation was something like it, if you don't react to what your conscience is trying to communicate to you, then like your world will start to fall apart. You might get pulled down to the depths of hell, like the big monster that you didn't even know was there might get you, all this stuff.
yeah, if you don't say the right thing, because I think the way the story, he did not go to, God had directed him to go to a certain town, I think, to tell them they're doing wrong, and he didn't, because he was nervous. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Jordan may have said like if you don't, like you said, according to your conscience, or if you don't say the right thing, do the right thing, and it's easy in life to not like, I think maybe a lot of us can become nervous to even do or say the right thing, like even something simple, like maybe, oh, should I have held that door open for that person, walking in, or, just some simple things that can come to mind. But yeah, it's interesting you say that, to have an appreciation for it, because I think a lot of people could, who are anti-Bible or anti-Christian, could say, oh yeah, that's just a bunch of bull, or something. You know?
Simplify it down and take the mystery and the beauty of the art out of it. Like that's what they take the essence out, and that is in a way, like taking the principles out. And I guess to wrap it up, I'm not Jonah, but likewise, sometimes it's, as much as I hate it, I find myself put against my own community, because I find myself noticing that all these people are like dogpiling artists and eating them alive. It's happened to a lot of artists that I've liked over the years in many different mediums. And I usually can keep quiet, but sometimes I just I'm watching all this horrible communication take place on social media, and sometimes I just get tempted to participate and try to get people to balance out a little bit.
You're braver than I am. I would, gosh, for me, I would be too, I'm too cautious, and I don't like to get involved in things, but then again, there's like a time and place to, like the video you watched, to do and say the right thing. So
I mean, I don't like doing
whatever that is
at all. I hate doing it, but I sometimes feel like I can't not. And it's exactly that same analogy, and I hate doing it because I hate, there are more successful artists than me who avoid such things, and who tell, I've had people tell me, don't do stuff like that, and don't give people a reason to not like you as an artist or whatever. But it kind of goes back to that old adage. It's like I'd rather be hated for what I actually am than loved for what I'm not, or whatever. And there's something about watching the world and our artistic communities kind of devolve into something that I don't like, that just makes me, I can't pretend like I'm a part of the whole thing. I can't pretend like I'm cool with the way that we're talking about stuff, because sometimes I'm just not, man.
And maybe this brings up a point, artists are still individuals, and you're not using your music platform for some political idea.
Right.
A lot of artists don't, but I think, in an effort to, maybe some artists feel like they have to be too careful, not walking on eggshells when it comes to certain issues. Others don't. They don't care at all. But, I think you still have to maintain yourself as a individual in person, separate and apart from the stage artist. And, you should still feel allowed to, say when something's wrong, even if, you're concerned it might hurt an image. But, at the end of the day, it's not like you're, directing some political ideals from the concert stage at the Evening Muse,
Yeah.
Totally different.
I think on one end of the spectrum, you've got artists who are, they use art to upset. And that's like Marilyn Manson, and that's like he served, and like Eminem. And
it's weird. It's crazy you brought him up too. You know what? I swear, I was thinking of him about what we might talk about, in our conversation about music I've listened to before, and he should have. In my opinion, I feel like it was arguably a bad idea to make an album titled Antichrist Superstar, because I feel like it's pushing away an audience. Why would you, for example, name an album something to do with Buddha that could maybe alienate people from another religious group, But, some of the musicianship and vocals, I felt there was true talent, but I think people's talents can be used at times, unfortunately, to alienate crowds. And I think, he did that to some degree. And I think that's what some people do today. So, but I think, even if there's an artist or person that we may not agree with their ideals, I think we need to be careful to say that they're not talented, because there could still be, plenty of people out there creating things that you do not like or you do not agree with at all, but it maybe took some talent to make it. But sorry if I really interjected, but it was just weird you brought his name up.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
ironic.
There's a different conversation that can be had about that. Or like there's a different language that's not nuanced. Like what you just said. What you just said is really, I think, what a lot of people, like a lot of people, sort of would have said in like 1998 if they really, really took their time and thought about it or whatever. Like it's kind of the balanced way to try to capture the problem of Marilyn Manson's music as it lies in the mainstream. What instead is often said, or was said back in the day, was just like, oh, it's like satanic music and like my kid ain't allowed to listen to it. Like that's the summary.
And you could even argue that it is.
And that's fine.
Maybe
Yeah.
Because I would say it is anti-Christian, and for that reason is not, I don't agree with, anti-Christian ideals, but it doesn't mean that the raw guitar in some tracks or, his vocals were not good.
Right. So there's that, which is like to acknowledge some of the raw craftsmanship that goes into it despite the message, and that's valid. But on the like assessing the value of it, some people will condemn it using the language of their worldview, I guess. And basically their worldview, I guess, dictates the way that it's described or something like that. Setting that aside for now, I guess, to get to the other idea, I put Eminem and Marilyn Manson kind of on one side of the spectrum. That's like they use art as a vehicle to upset people and to offend people and to bother people from their worldview, and that means their target audience is like, not that it's explicit, but their target audience becomes people who are willing to tolerate that, who are also willing to like laugh and mock at whoever it is that's insulted by it all, and not care, like just not care about that cost socially. And so you end up with a whole room full of people who don't care if those people are offended. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got something that's totally the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Something that is like, I don't even know what. Something that's like Kenny Rogers, maybe. It's just like there's nothing in there that could be offensive. There's nothing in there that could possibly bother anybody. It's just the most banal sort of version of expression that you could imagine. And I guess I forget where we were, but I find myself, I'm a little bit toward the Eminem thing. I'm like a little bit like, I believe that art, when it upsets people, is useful. I don't like the existence. I don't like finding myself in, I guess, the existence where everything is just kind of hunky-dory and like, I feel like it's stale. I feel like if there's no conflict in my life, I feel stagnant and like I'm not engaging or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing, I think, inherently wrong with upsetting people for, in my opinion, the right reason.
Right.
But it all comes down to, a big moral question from this discussion is what's right or what's wrong.
Yeah.
And where does the censorship lie? I mean, it's good to be in a country where, you can say what you want without fear of being thrown in jail, as you are in some places. But at the same time, I think it's good to, be mindful of, what audience are you trying to attract? Are you intending to upset people? And if so, is it for the right reason or is it for a wrong reason? Because you could arguably upset a bunch of people for saying something that may be morally correct, but you could also upset a bunch of people for saying like, hey, something against like Muhammad or Jesus or, the Torah or Buddha. And, like, is there really a purpose is there a moral purpose in alienating people or not? And if there's not, then like, what's the purpose? For own personal and financial gain or,
Yeah.
So, man, these are some big life questions, sir. You're going to write a song about this, huh?
This does happen sometimes. It gets a little, I like it to get a little more in this realm, I suppose. But I think, we've pretty much, I've kind of tapped out my time with you probably.
Ooh, hope I don't get canceled.
I don't think, hopefully neither of us will. I mean, I didn't today, so hopefully, whatever. But I am looking forward to our show in September.
For sure.
I'm very stoked about that.
So, me too. I think it's going to be so interesting with two different roots genres and then a storyteller thrown in the middle. I think it'll be a great night.
And so these things are open to the public?
I do advertise it publicly. It's still, my private home, of course.
So you vet
things.
But
to some degree, yes. But I do invite any great and good person who can be respectful of my home to come.
Cool.
So
awesome.
So that's how I see it. But well, I'm excited.
I'll obviously share Key City with the audience on Red
awesome.
House, and then they should also be able to find it as the show approaches. I'll be promoting it, I guess, probably to my folks in Wilkesboro. So
sweet, thank you. I'm gonna be putting up posters soon. I saw your the red image.
Yeah, should I send one with you? I've got spares.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I might take one, and
cool.
I'll be putting up posters around here, Wilkes, Boone,
Very
so,
cool.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for the conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, then.